I think I can rattle off about 1,000 games I want to see come to the Nintendo Switch for a variety of reasons, mainly so I can play them on one of the best Nintendo platforms ever, maybe the best, and also so I can take some of these great games on the go. And there is just a gigantic legacy and history of fantastic games that went a little bit under the radar that I want to cover in specific videos. And in today's video, I want to highlight a game that I really enjoyed years ago, nearly a decade ago, and that is Muramasa the Demon Blade. Now, Muramasa the Demon Blade was a relatively underrated game. I'm not exactly sure why. It was done by Vanillaware, and the people that played this game loved it. But circling back to Vanillaware, you guys might be aware of them as a studio because they've done some very, very notable games. It's not like they're this under-the-radar studio that doesn't do games that are well-received. I point to games such as Odin Sphere, Dragon's Crown. They're working on 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim right now, which is looking fantastic. They did Grand Knight's History on the PlayStation Portable. They've done some really, really great games. Muramasa the Demon Blade, on the other hand, is one game that for whatever reason, it was released on the Nintendo Wii, and then it was released on the PlayStation Vita. We'll get to that version in a little bit because that version was fantastic. But then after that, it subsequently didn't get any other re-releases, which is interesting because they've ported Odin Sphere to the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4. They've ported Dragon's Crown to the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4. Dragon's Crown actually originally came out on the PS3, but it's available on the Vita, it's available on the PS4. You get the idea. There is so much potential with these Vanillaware games, and they've done rather well. At least Odin Sphere did. That became a greatest hits title, and Dragon's Crown has been really well received. The one that gets lost in the cracks is Muramasa the Demon Blade because it is available in such limited forms, again, on the Nintendo Wii and on the PlayStation Vita. And who had a PlayStation Vita? Not to slight that platform, I love the Vita, but let's be real, the Vita didn't have a gigantic user base. The Nintendo Wii, on the other hand, did have a significant user base, but the Nintendo Wii, whenever these critically revered games and these games that did cater towards more of a hardcore gamer, sometimes they just wouldn't do all that well commercially, and Muramasa the Demon Blade was seemingly one of those games that fell into that category. I'm not even sure of the exact sales numbers off the top of my head, but just anecdotally seeing the games people talk about, Muramasa the Demon Blade is a title that isn't often brought up. So what is the game itself? Well, if you've played Vanillaware titles, you're gonna feel right at home, and immediately this is a game that hooks your attention based on those gorgeous visuals. I loved Odin Sphere's visuals, I loved Dragon's Crown visuals, but Muramasa the Demon Blade to me stands above even those two titles, maybe because I really like the Edo period of Japan's setting, and they really translate that into this watercolor visual style, hand-drawn visual style that just looks so good. The game itself is a two-dimensional, 2D side-scrolling action RPG set on the main Japan island of Honshu during the Edo period. You take control of one of two characters with similar gameplay abilities, those characters being Momohime as well as Kisuke. Their storylines do play out a little bit different, but at the same time, there are very distinct characters that have their own unique look to it. And yes, when you're playing Muramasa the Demon Blade initially, it is a very satisfying action-oriented title, and maybe the argument can be made that it gets a little bit repetitive at times, and I can understand that argument. However, they have a litany of different abilities and things of that nature that do extend the replayability and just overall enjoyment of the game, and I think they do that rather well. And if you want to talk about a stylish 2D action game, and I say 2D with the notion that this is also a game with a lot of exploration, or a decent bit of it, where you can go back and forth to different areas, find secrets, find unlockables, things of that nature. And combat itself is one of the standout components of the game. Again, it's super stylish, super flashy, and it comes in the form of both avoidable random encounters and scripted fights, where some of the boss fights are over the top and very slick to see in action. They're also relatively challenging at times, so that's something you have to keep in mind as well. The game is also packed with content. There was a lot of replayability with two different characters, and again, those boss fights were just so engaging and so well done that it was a game that when I had a Nintendo Wii and I had this game on disc, it would be a game that I would go back to often just to experience the gorgeous visuals, the great music. Let's just be frank here, from a presentation standpoint, Muramasa the Demon Blade is tremendous. It's got great music, it's got great visuals, it's so flashy in design, and a lot of the aesthetic choices are so well done. And again, the Nintendo Wii version wasn't the only version that ever came out. It also got a port to the PlayStation Vita, and the PlayStation Vita version was awesome. It was titled Muramasa Rebirth, and it's a port of Muramasa developed by Vanillaware for the PlayStation Vita, and the Vita was chosen as the port's platform over the more commercially successful 360 and PS3 due to the Vita's OLED-based screen, and obviously that made the game's visuals accentuated that much more. The Vita's screen was fantastic, and the game did look great. While content was cut that during the original version's development, the team decided against going back and restoring it, instead creating new additional content with Rebirth. The controls were also adjusted to suit a new platform, probably would see similar adjustments to the Nintendo Switch, given that playing on a Wii mode is a little bit different than playing on the Switch controller, but you could also play that game with the classic controller. So that's something to note. The game itself, in addition to the main game, 4 self-contained stories were released as downloadable content under the title of Genroku Legends, featuring new characters within the Muramasa universe, and for the new characters, swords are replaced by other weapons such as clubs, shurikens, and they otherwise play in the same way as Momohime and Kisuke. New music was also created for that version, so if we're getting any version of Muramasa the Demon Blade, we need Muramasa Rebirth, we need all of the DLC included, and you can charge me a premium price point, whether it be $40 or $50, because I will be all over it. Vanillaware is a tremendous development studio, and the fact of the matter is Muramasa the Demon Blade is one of those games that's just been lost in the annals of time, and I don't know why we're not seeing any more ports of it. The 10-year anniversary passed last year, so it's not like they can set something like that. Maybe Vanillaware is busy with their other games that they're working on right now, but at some point, I implore them, go back and port Muramasa the Demon Blade to the Switch. A lot of people would be all over it, and it would give that game a new lease on life, and I think it would resonate heavy with people in 2020, 2021, whenever they decide to release it. So that is my 2 cents on Muramasa the Demon Blade. Let me know, have you ever played the game? Is this a game you never even heard about? Because I know a lot of you guys might be in that camp. Nonetheless, sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.